Well, good morning. Hello, Jeffrey. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well, Mr. Paul. How you doing? How you
I'm very,
doing?
I'm very, very good. We'll wait for a couple of comments to come in. Hopefully, people can hear us and see us, and everything is looking good. But how's your week been so far? I mean, we Wednesday in. Are you having a good week? Pretty productive week.
Good week, not so productive. All right, I went down the rabbit hole of Claude within Figma,
Oh
and it did not go anywhere that it was supposed to go at every
no,
turn. No, not at all. It is not like the videos that you see. Like,
that's so
oh,
unusual.
all right, at least 20 hours went into it, and I still couldn't get anything beyond a really terrible design. But I figured it out. It just took about 20 hours.
At least
So
you didn't live
hey,
stream for 20 hours.
I was close. How have you been productive?
No, not really. So. I mean, I did have a few bits and pieces all ready to go, so that wasn't too bad. Something we'll talk about a little later. Obviously, the Mosaic video that I released yesterday, and I know you did a live stream, which we will talk about a little later. But this week, not so much. So I've kind of been solo parenting this week, so it's been a little bit chaotic, to say the least. So I'm hoping now that my better half is back tonight, and hopefully that'll mean tomorrow and Friday I can be a little bit more productive than I have been the last couple of days. But it's all sent to try us. It's all fun until someone loses an eye, as they say.
Yeah, sounds fun. You could start teaching editing soon. Get a little junior editor on board. Look
That
at
would
it
be
that way.
that would be awesome. If I'm honest, though, I'd rather if he went and did the gardening. But at 4 years, at 4 years of age, apparently it's frowned upon to let your 4-year-old go with an electric mower. So, I will err on the side of caution there and not do that.
Depends where you're at. No.
Very true. In the UK, where health and safety is a priority, you understand. It is a priority. So yeah. So if anyone can let us know, if we can get some comments in, just to let us know that everything looks okay, sounds okay, and so on, because I've set up a new thing on here today, and I'm not 100% sure that everything is fully working the way I would expect it to. So we will have to wait and see. But let's start anyway. Let's crack on with sort of like the first of the topics that I've got set up today. I did a video last week about Google Stitch. For anybody that doesn't know, Google Stitch is it's their revamped version of what I took a look at previously, which allows you to prompt the AI, get it to design things for you, and iterate it in the same way you've probably seen in various different things. The first version really wasn't very good. The second version, while it is better, it's still nowhere near where you would want it to be. I mean, did you watch the video? Have you tried Google Stitch yourself? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. So I've tried Google Stitch before in the past. I thought it was so. It was interesting. Saw your video, but before I saw it, I saw a few others, and the first video I saw just disturbed me. Like the first thing the dude said was, "Everything has changed. Figma is dead. I will use this now on my next client project." I'm like, this has been out less than 24 hours, and that kind of like. I guess it triggered me in a way. I'm like, wait, dude, like you would really use a tool that you don't know anything about that just came out on a real client project versus something you might have spent years learning and understanding. And so, more and more videos came out like that, one after another. And it's a shame because it is an interesting tool, but it is misleading content creators. But then your video came out. I was like, first time I'm being shown a process and how it works. And this is what we need to see how do these things actually work. Because, sometimes it could take days and hours just get a grasp on it. But yeah, what do you think about it?
I think it's much improved over the first version, which I covered probably about 18 months ago, which was really, really poor sort of results. I got very mixed results in my experience with it. I thought, as you said, let's take a look at doing a process, because most content you see online is just sort of like they'll pop a one shot in there and they get back these results and they go, oh, this is amazing. And like you say, Figma is dead, the end of design. I just call bullshit on that. So I thought, right, let's go in as you're kind of being shown how to use AI for design, which is get a PRD. So you put down exactly what you want, maybe tie in your CSS framework. So you're giving it everything it needs to be able to design based upon what you need or want it to do. And it still spat out, well, to be honest, it was Some of the early tests I did on it were terrible, really poor. And there's no consistency. And this is the thing that frustrates me the most with it, is the lack of consistency. But what I did like about it is that once you got something you were semi-happy with, you could then take that over into, I can't think what it was, Google something or other. It's the Google AI Studio, basically.
Yeah.
At which point you then had the design open and you could physically select, edit, and so on. And it was way quicker and way more intuitive, and it gave better results, but still not something I think you could realistically use unless you don't really care about what you're creating, or you are
Yeah.
just using it as a very quick starting point to then push over into Figma, or take it over into Claude AI or something or Claude Code. I kind of thought I could get better results quicker by using something like Reloom, which I think gets you a much better result, much more flexibility, and a lot less messing about with prompting consistently all the time. It's like, that's the thing that frustrates me the most.
Yeah, it's definitely not a tool for designers, I feel, because I need to go in and make changes. I got to go in and make sure I got components and things got the right variables, the right tokens, things that are going to be translated to the site that I build. And that's why when Figma dropped the MCP update, which now allows Claude to actually write on Figma, I was excited, and I was a little bit too excited, and now I'm exhausted and lost a lot of sleep over it. But the thing is, like, the way I vision it, even though if it's not there yet, is being able to do something like Google Stitch, but being able to go in and actually use your design skills. Like, it's not supposed to do all the work.
No.
And I think that is the big problem. Like, our clients at least when I get a client, they want me to design. They want my expertise, not a prompt, and I think that's like the big difference between using something like Google Stitch and using something like Figma.
Yeah, I agree. For me, I think the biggest problem we have right now is that everything is so disjointed. You've got one tool here that does one thing and it might do it quite well. But then when you want to take it from there to the next phase, I think as designers, as we kind of say a lot, it's about the process. It's not about the physical tools. It's having the process in place to take it from initial idea, whether that's like a design guide, style guide, PRD or something like that, through to its initial wireframe, to initial design, then to actual build, then final release, and all those kinds of things. We don't really have a simple, streamlined way of doing that. So using something like Google Stitch, when you want to take it over, yes, you can take it over into Figma, you can take it over into Claude, you can download the code, all those things. But that's just literally making more work, because when you take it over, you use Figma an awful lot more than I do. But I know myself that using your variables and setting all that side of things up in there is a key part of it, especially then if you duplicate your variable structure inside whatever framework you're using, because it then makes the whole transition between all those different pieces considerably easier. We don't have that yet. We're lacking that. If you push it over to Figma, it's not taking over what you need to make Figma quicker. So you kind of, again, I always think the same thing. It's like you get 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. It's good at one thing and it's quite cool, but then when you take it to the next stage, you've got to go back a couple of steps to get anything remotely useful into that next phase. I mean, have you found the same thing?
Absolutely, and this is where a lot of the pain points come in, because it took years to start to develop systems and processes and workflows that just work. And now we're seeing this disruption that everyone's calling this, and we got to change everything. And that part, I feel like, just adds a whole lot of pressure, anxiety, and stress. And it got me thinking a lot, like, is it really needed to change everything when we got something that works?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way to go. And what I've come to the conclusion is we have the things that work for us, the systems and processes, but how could we improve it? How could we just add to it? And like you said, when you try to change everything and use these new tools, it is taking big steps backwards. And then it's just taking a lot more time as well, instead of, improving the workflow.
Yeah, and I think that's the message that I think needs to be sort of put out there. But let's just caveat everything we say for the rest of this live stream. We're not saying that AI can't build some wicked things. It can be. People will prove that. We've already seen people do it. You know, you can create some pretty cool things. You want to create apps and stuff like that, absolutely you can do it. Do they come with their own set of caveats and issues? Yes. But we're not saying it can't. So I just want to put that out there as a disclaimer for the rest of this live stream. Just when people go, and get on the keyboard and start becoming keyboard warriors. But I think this is the thing. It's like if you watch a lot of what's being put out there, this is killing this. You know, Stitch is killing Figma. No, it's not. It just isn't. At this point in time, it's not. If you want to have a workflow where you can design something, then surely the MCP directly inside Figma is going to do the job better than an external service that then you can push over to Figma and potentially have to do a lot of remedial work to get it to where you would make it a useful sort of starting point, design, whatever. I think this is the thing that kind of frustrates me the most about what we see out there, what's being put out, and the message that's kind of being put out there. And the difficulty is you get people then going like, oh, but then all we're going to do is, you know, our clients or potential clients are just going to go and do it themselves. Really? Mm-hmm. Will you have fringe cases? Absolutely. Of course you will. You'll have people that would have quite happily gone and done it. But the point, and I think James Lively did a sort of video on this yesterday, which kind of touched upon a lot of things that I think you and I have been talking about, is that they're tools that are helpful. People that look for web designers don't come to you just to build the pixels. They don't. They have a problem and they want you or I or someone else to find a solution or solutions that takes that problem away. That's what people want. AI at this point in time can't do that because you need to A, know what the problem is, and B, know how to actually tell AI how you have a problem, what needs to be done, how to fix it, and then fault find along the way because AI is very good at telling you something is right, and then you tell it, no, it's not, and then it goes, oh, actually, you're right, it's not. I'll do it this way. And you go round in circles. Again, the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back thing. That's my experience, and I'm pretty sure where we've talked before, you've experienced the same, and I've seen your live streams where you are very much the same. It's like, why? Why have you done that? That's just, no, it's just wrong, it's just stupid. Stop being dumb.
Earlier this week, I in ChatGPT, I asked it, what is the date 6 months from now? And it said, today's date is March 7th, or was it March 27th, and the date is this. I'm like, what is the date 3 months from now? It said, today's date is March 28th. And like within a span of 10 seconds, it got 2 different dates. But I mean, that's, you know, this is a reason why you still got to have expertise. You still got to know what you're doing, whether you're designing, you're developing. And I think we're going to see, we've already been seeing like what happens when a bunch of non-designers and developers start creating stuff. We're going to see a lot of mess, a lot of security issues. And it's quite funny. It is a quite funny situation. It's amusing. I wouldn't say funny. It's amusing sometimes to sit back and see some of the things that are happening. But at the same time, this is a new tool that we have. And I figured something out because I was overwhelmed by all of it. Every week, especially like just Claude alone, every week there's like 2 new big features that changes everything. And then you got this one, and you got this one. Now Gemini is better at design, and now Codex is better at rate limits. And it's just all over the place. And then something new like Google Stitch came out, and I was just like, this is overwhelming. It's impossible to keep up with. And I went back to my roots, and it gave me so much comfort and clarity. And the roots were just master one thing at a time. Just choose one thing and get really good at it. Because I found when I master one thing or just focus on learning one big thing, that you start to pick up little things like learning WordPress. You try to master it, you're going to pick up knowledge about hosting and DNS and setting up security and speed optimization just naturally and organically. And so I followed that. I just chose, okay, I'm going to learn Claude. I'm going to learn Claude Code. And I'm going to see how I could implement this in the web design and development process to do, like what you said, work with real clients and solve real problems. And that just gave me a lot of comfort. And I feel now like, okay, things are a lot more clear. There's a lot less stress and pressure. And I'm excited, you know, and I look forward to keep learning more and sharing more about it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is we've talked about this. It's like it is an exciting time for what we do. You know, we're probably in an enviable position where even though you are still working with clients, it's not your only thing. So you get the benefit of being able to work with clients and experience building your community, creating your courses, educating, helping people and stuff like that. And part of that is the excitement of learning new tools. So we're both in very enviable positions where we're not solely reliant upon building websites and working with clients. That's an important factor here. But it is one of those things that I think once you start to buy into the hype of it all, it can be absolutely exhausting. Because as you say, this tool is the best tool today, then tomorrow, it is the race to the top, as it were, for all the different tools. ChatGPT is sort of vying against Gemini, which is vying against the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So they're all sort of pushing forward to get better in specific areas. And it does get tiring. It does. And I think if you listen to the constant noise that's out there about AI is everything, and that's basically what is out there. The noise is you watch YouTube, and you know yourself, you watch one video and your feed is full of AI bros. Figma's dead. WordPress is dead. Why would you use WordPress? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, and then you try it and you realize it ain't as straightforward as you're making out. And you'd think that people like us that have been doing this for years would fly through it and be building these apps and websites like that. And the reality is, it's not that simple and straightforward because AI is not as good as people think it is. And I think you could be wowed by it. And I think that's the thing is once you start using it, you get wowed by it. It's the new shiny thing syndrome. But once you get past that and you start to realize it's fumbling here, it's not doing what I want there, it's done something completely different that I've asked it to do, or it just goes off on a tangent of its own right. We've got to remember that AI is trained on content that's out there. And there's a lot of content out there that isn't right. And that is reflected in what AI does. People don't necessarily see that. And maybe we've been around the block a little longer than some people, and we've seen the hype and the trend machine over the years ebb and flow. This is this is dead, that's dead, that's dead, that's dead. This is the new king. It's all cyclical. It's all something that once things settle down, we will see the good AI rise to the top. We will see people embrace it in a way that makes sense. Right now, it's the Wild West and everybody's jumping on every new opportunity and everything is a killer of something else. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, it's definitely a bigger ebb and flow than I've ever seen. Like I've never seen anything like it. And I think that's why, there's so much hype going. I mean, gosh, I go shopping for a new refrigerator. They got AI toasters, AI washing machines. I'm like, what LLM is in this washing machine to qualify this as AI? And it's become just the biggest corporate marketing thing out there. And once you do get into it and you understand and start to learn it, it's kind of like what you say, you figure out that, wait, this thing isn't everything they said it's going to be. It's another tool. It's just another tool. It has its bugs, it has its weaknesses, it has its pros and its values. And just like a page builder, every page builder has its pros and cons, its use cases and its weaknesses. It's the same thing. And once I figured out that I just treat this as a tool, it made things so much easier in a way as far as like the way I deal with it.
Yeah, you've got to learn the strengths and weaknesses. I think once you understand where the weaknesses are, you can play upon your own strengths, or you can find alternative ways of dealing with those weaknesses and moving past it. But it is ultimately a tool. And I suppose if they're going to put it into your cooker and your toaster, then you probably can say that toasters are cooked. Had to be said by someone. I do apologize. It had to be said. So
chefs are cooked.
The chefs are cooked. Gordon Ramsay is cooked.
Yeah. Why is anybody going to go to a restaurant? Because they got AI to toast their stuff and to water. Yeah, that whole argument that's something else. I don't see it as people see it. I just don't, and I was all over the place. I was just observing, trying to be open-minded. Like, yeah, I know it's going to get better, It always does. Technology always gets better, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's as bad as people are trying to make us think. And I think it's the fear. It's the FOMO, the anxiety that people want to spark. Unfortunately, that's what gets traction. That's what
Of
gets
course it is.
views
That's what it
and the
clicks.
attention. Yeah, but it's not. I don't believe that's the truth. I just don't see it. I think if a client is going to leave to vibe code their own website, that's the same kind of client that might leave to Fiverr and pay someone $200 to do it. Or, you know,
They can carry on then, can't they, really?
it's churn. Churn happens in business.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just where I'm at. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I think James made it's a very good point in his video, and I think it echoes a lot of what any sensible person is saying, which is it's not the be all and end all. People don't come to you in general to just build a website. It's not just about building the website. You know yourself, you have your discovery call. As part of that discovery call is you find out what problems you're facing, what do you need the website to do, all those kinds of things. And then as someone with experience, you then formulate a plan on how to address those issues. At this point in time, all AI can do is spit out the design, and it can do the underlying structure to do things, but as long as you tell it how to do it and understanding how that should work. You do need to have that understanding. If you just go in there with like, build me a website for a real estate company based in the USA, you're going to come back with something very generic and basic. Then you can prompt it to get further. And if you are the kind of person that enjoys that kind of thing, have at it. You probably will get a result you'll be happy with. But would it be as good as someone that understands that market sector, has been building sites for clients and knows the problems, the pitfalls, the ways to make that platform work better for you? No, because that's where our experience as humans and as business people, that's where we come in, that any AI at this point in time can't do. And I don't see it being able to do it because humans by their very nature think outside the box a lot of the time. They'll find solutions to problems that are really weird. And AI is trained upon what's out there and what's common. Those edge cases generally won't come up because they are edge cases. And it kind of leads me on to what we talked about a little bit before and a video that I put together that I want to put out, which is the dead internet theory. That once AI starts feeding AI, it just becomes this loop. And AI just becomes dumber and dumber and dumber, not more intelligent, because the humans are not putting the content out there for the AI to consume. And all AI is doing is taking the middle road of that information, ignoring those edge cases either side, and then it feeds it back to itself and repeats that cycle. And just like with a photocopy, every time you photocopy the same photocopy, it's the same picture, but degrades a little bit. There's a little bit of degradation in it. And I think that could potentially happen if we see that dead internet theory start to transpire. So
we're starting to. We're starting all those Claude bots, man. Have you been getting more spam? Because I'm getting about 20. Let me edit your videos every single day.
Yeah, not that many, but I do get it all. Like your thumbnails, edit your videos, and all those kinds of stupid rubbish. I just block it all.
Yeah, but it's increasing, and I've seen reports that Claude bots, they are starting to just do their own thing. I could see like LinkedIn, Facebook, all those, including our emails, they are just going to get just slammed with these automated Claude bots just out there running a rug. Like I said, part of it's amusing. You got to kind of laugh at it, and just see what happens, because it is going to change some things. But going back to the client problems, and I'm just starting a client project myself. Just about every single website for a client that I think any of us build has a challenge in it. Even a simple one. It might have something like they need a special kind of booking. They need to figure something out. And we have to find a solution, like how are we going to make this work for this client? And going just to let and ask, LLM to do that for us, to find a solution, they could give us 3 different answers 3 different times. And this is where it takes a real person in it that has experience, that has gut intuition, that kind of could see ahead like, wait, that sounds good, but this is going to be a pain in the ass later on. This is going to open up a can of worms I don't want to get into.
Yeah.
It is true.
I absolutely agree. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about Mosaic Builder because we talked about this. I know you did a live stream the other day, which I watched most of. I did shout at the screen a few times, I will be honest.
Was I doing it wrong? Like, over there, dude, over there.
Yeah. It's like, press that button, press it there.
That's the thing about those unboxing videos.
Oh, yeah.
It was my first time looking. Yeah.
To be honest, it's one of those things that I struggled with a few bits and pieces, and I would have been exactly the same if I'd done a live stream on it, because there is a different mindset to parts of it. Like, for example, like the linking and things like that. We'll come on to specifics in a moment, but let me just ask you, I mean, you did your live stream on it, so I don't know if you've tested it since, you've sort of delved into it a little bit deeper yourself, off camera, as it were. But I did released a video on it yesterday, which is doing really, really well compared to the fact that it's a new builder out there. I didn't think maybe that many people would be that interested in it. But I was quite surprised and quite impressed by it. I mean, what are your thoughts on it, your initial kind of impressions from doing the live stream and maybe taking a look at it afterwards?
I think this is something to really look out for. This is something to keep an eye on. I mean, we got a lot of good options. And in one of our talks that we had a couple of weeks ago, we talked about, could we use another page builder? And we got a lot of them. We got a lot of options right now. But what this means is we have a lot of good choices that works for us. We have something like Builderist, Etch, or Bricks for like the development focused type of builder. And then we have something like Elementor, Breakdance, or Divi 5, which still, you know, is not out. I don't know if Divi 5 is even ready yet. I tried playing with it. It was, to me, like it was a bit difficult, but at least it's more of a visual type builder. Mosaic felt damn good. Like being a first release, like, you know, just coming out of beta. And what clicked for me was when I felt like I could see like the Figma relations. Like, you know, we had like the navigation and our styling panels on the different sides. But I think this is going to be something that's going to turn out like a good alternative for the design focused type of WordPress user. What do you think?
I liked it. I thought it was an interesting way of working. I think if you are comfortable with using builders, it shouldn't take that long to get used to, but it does have some little sort of quirks in how they've approached it. And talking to Daniel, I know you talked to him as well, is that they've taken a slightly different approach to your traditional builder, and they try to make it closer to a development environment, whereas it works in a more developer-orientated headspace, as it were. So it's like slightly different. Like, for example, it took me a while. I had to actually reach out to Daniel to see how the hell you did it. It's like, how do you make an image a link? You kind of think, well, surely that's just like you've got the little sort of toolbar that pops out. Why is there nothing there? If I want to connect this up to dynamic data, why can't? Where's the option for this? And nothing on the right-hand panel. And I was like scratching my head as to why is something so simple and basic missing? You know, everything else looks so good. And he come back, he said, it works in a different way. You basically wrap it in the link element, and that becomes a wrapper for whatever's inside it, which when you think about it, actually makes a lot of sense, because you'll know that if you want to make a card a clickable element and all the content inside it clickable, then you've got to know what you're doing. You've got to understand about making it list items. You've got to understand about how you expand the actual link inside that container, as it were, to do something. So it's not obvious and straightforward. So it made a lot of sense that whatever you put inside that link wrapper, becomes a link. So put a card in it, connect that link up to dynamic data, job done. But because it's a different way of thinking, it was like, that wouldn't have been immediately obvious to me, because I'm so used to working with tools like Elementor, Bricks, and those kinds of things. So it was like a little bit of a mind shift. And there's a couple of other things which I'll come on to later that still find a little confusing. But what about you? I mean, was there anything that sort of stood out to you in Mosaic that kind of made you think, that's really cool the way they've approached that, other than, like you say, being more Figma orientated with the sort of navigation panel on the left-hand side and so on?
Yeah, one thing that really stood out was being able to like use your classes and your tokens, and being like, for example, you just go onto your button, I think you right click it, you're able to just go to your border radius, large, medium, small. And it was just like right there, super easy, and I could see that really speeding things up. It's like you said, it was like a different approach, but once things started to click, it was quite refreshing. It was fast, it was snappy,
Yeah.
and it felt like this is kind of like ready for a client website, like a basic brochure website. And it also made me think like, this is how I wish Elementor V4 would have done. You know, like if they would finish it and get it to a point where we don't got to mix and match. And I know I didn't really want to go there, but this is what I'm thinking. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's like, if we're going to use classes and variables and use this kind of a workflow that's a bit more advanced in a visual way, I want to use it all the way. And I felt like, hey, this is a good alternative. You know, like while we're waiting around for grids and loops, you know, for that, we got this right here. And it's free for a year.
Yeah.
And a $200 LTD. Like I got the $200 Bricks LTD, and that was a great investment.
Yeah, I think this is the difference. They've got the benefit of hindsight. They've got the benefit of being able to look at Bricks and Elementor and tools like that. So Elementor have got a difficult job to retrofit all these things. But like you say, if you look at a tool like Mosaic or Bricks that are front and center, they work with classes, dynamic data and stuff like that. It's built in from the get-go, and it makes a lot of sense on how it works. So I think Mosaic are doing the right thing here. You know, people can say, like, do we need another builder? But I think what we're seeing is, I would say this is like the third or fourth generation of builders. You know, you think, the first generation would have been like your original Divi, your WP Bakery, which was a visual composer prior to that, which were very short code orientated tools. Then the likes of Elementor came along and they shifted the way in which we worked to less of that reliance upon the shortcuts, all the junk that was ingrained in all that, the problems that brought with it. Then it brought V2 of Elementor out, and they had the dynamic data, and they had the sort of the template in structure and stuff, and that was the kind of game changer in that respect. Then the third generation is where you look at things like your Bricks Builder and stuff like that, where that was built straight out the gate to have great support for dynamic content, no reliance upon third-party tools to handle dynamic content. Templates were in there, class-based design system was built in there from the get-go. It had things missing, there's no real wireframing, and there's lots of different bits and pieces that would have made the whole package smoother. And I think we're now on to sort of Gen 4, as it were, of builders, where you've got the likes of Mosaic and Builderius and stuff like that, which they got the benefit of seeing those previous ones, what's worked, the stumbling blocks, taking the best pieces from those and using that to build their own sort of setup. And if you ever used one of the other products that the team behind Mosaic released, which was Smart Slider 3, that was very, very smooth. That was very polished and very, very well built in comparison to things like Slider Revolution and tools like that. It was like, oh, right, okay, this is what it could be like. This feels a lot more polished, a lot more straightforward and understandable to create not just sliders, but you could create entire websites. I think they've benefited from understanding how to build a bloody good interface, and they bringing that over into Mosaic. And there's a lot of things to like. There's some things that I find are weird and quirky. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of how the CSS grid functions work, and I find creating your own classes, that feels a little bit odd. Like, I was messing about with it yesterday and found that I tried to create a class for a grid I was working on, and that affected all of the grids inside there, even though I hadn't actually created a class for it. Now, that's down to my lack of understanding, because I literally spent probably 3 or 4 hours playing around with it. I haven't spent enough time with it to get really comfortable. But those two things did stand out to me as being very strange in how they worked for the way my brain is wired right now. Yeah. So I'm sure that will change. But they were the things. And the other thing, I really want a dark mode for the interface. I don't like light mode. I like a dark mode.
Man, dark mode. That's yeah. If anybody says they don't like dark mode, I don't know if I could have coffee with you. I don't know if we could. No.
Milk coffee or black coffee though, then though.
Oh no, it's got to be black coffee. Yeah, that's right, huh? Yeah. I didn't sleep last night, so if you see me like that's because I got 4 hours sleep. I woke up at 4 a.m. still thinking about how am I going to solve this Figma Claude problem. I swear, I'm not joking. Like, this is some nights I'll be like, okay, like I solved it. I sleep good. And then I have nights like this where it's not working. Why isn't it working? And then I'm trying.
Yeah.
But
That's normal.
yeah. But like you said, it's the way the brain is wired. And that to me is what I found. I feel like I would need to work on a few projects to really get my brain around it. But a couple of things that stand out. And look, I don't want to get negative on Elementor. It doesn't really help to be negative. I think constructive criticism is always helpful, but slamming something really isn't. I don't want to get into that. And I'm trying really hard with Elementor to be patient, but some things are getting really difficult for me. And I got to be honest, the ads. I mean, they obviously don't care what we think,
No.
when it comes to the ads. Because every Elementor user out there, especially those building sites for clients, we say we don't want this because our clients go in it and this is problematic for us.
Yeah.
And the release, like this morning I see it's released and, I see that they said there's no API support for atomic elements by design because they want a foundation first. I'm like, well, if you need a solid foundation, shouldn't you wait for that before saying it's ready?
Yeah.
And there's these things that get to me. And I think it's because they have grown to such a big company with a lot of, people involved. And when you got a smaller team like what we have with Mosaic, it also gives a bonus. It's not a single developer behind the curtain just doing his thing. So I think it's something to look out for. I think there's going to be a lot of interest for it, just like for other builders, for Builderist. And we get asked a lot about Etch. I mean, there's a lot of people who like it. And I think we're going to start to see these smaller builders that are more focused for specific types of users. I think they're going to do really good, and it's refreshing to have.
Yeah, there's definitely a niche market out there for these very focused tools. Like you look at Build Areas. I mean, I haven't spent that long with it because there's only so much time in the day, and there's only so much effort you can put into learning and understanding things to create content on it and things like that. That's not a 5-minute learn. Whereas I kind of found with Mosaic, I literally got in there, spent an hour playing around with it. It's like, I feel comfortable enough now to be able to talk about this and see the things that I think could be better, could be improved upon, that are maybe not quite there yet or missing. But Build Areas, where I've tried that takes a lot more learning, because the way that works is very, very different to a more traditional kind of setup of the way builders work and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see how it pans out. And I think they're doing a fantastic job, and they've really ramped up what they're doing with it. And they've got David on board now to create content. So I think we need to see content. I think this is the area that a lot of people pick up on, is that the success of a builder isn't always down to just the builder. The success of the builder is down to the ecosystem that grows around it. That means the education, the people that are putting content out there. Because I was reading a thread yesterday on the Bricks group, and there were people complaining about there's no content, official content coming out from the Bricks team for educational content, video content. There's some written content stuff there, and they kind of released a sort of a beta version of their new documentation and training kind of thing, which they will be turning into videos apparently. But there's that it needs it. It needs people behind it. It needs a face or faces or people that become strong with that particular tool to become the sort of champion for it, to get people on board and to adopt it. Without that, I think it makes it a lot more difficult. And then once you see that adoption, then you start to see third-party companies. Like you look now over the last year, 18 months, there's a lot more companies out there creating wireframes and design sets and stuff for bricks and some third-party plugins and tools. That's where you know something's going to take off. The difficulty when you can compare that to Elementor is Elementor has that ecosystem, but I think they've leaned on that ecosystem for far too long. So instead of them actually refining the tool, and you could say the swings and roundabouts and benefits and negatives to doing it this way, but because they build 80% of a particular function, and then it's kind of left for long enough for third parties to come along and fill out those gaps, that you end up having this mishmash of multiple different plugins and tools sitting on top of Elementor. And then when there's an update comes out and you update it and you read the forums going, oh, well, it's not Elementor's fault. It's the plugins. They haven't updated. Well, it kind of is partly Elementor's fault if they're not actually giving you the full tool to be able to do the job. So you have to rely upon external tools to be able to do it. They've done it for a long time with dynamic content. They would release something that had 80% of the features, but miss out some really key important parts. And then another company would come along and build a plugin for it. It's not a good way of moving forward. Whereas if you look at tools like Bricks and Builderius and Mosaic, I think their approach is hopefully going to be better, where they will not release part of a feature, they will release the feature. You might have to wait longer for it, but at least that feature is there and can be used from day dot. Not, oh, that's cool, but I can't use it because I need that part to work. Like they released widgets that didn't support dynamic data. What's the point?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like these are the things that I think have hampered, and a lot of people get fed up. It's part of the reason why I moved away from it, because I got sick to death of when an update came out, and there was always updates very, very frequently. You just looked at it and go, is this going to cause me a headache? Do I have to go through a staging site and backups and all these bits and pieces for a minor release, which could come out the day after a major release has come out, and then another one 2 days later? That suddenly becomes really problematic when you've got 10 sites that you have to then run backups on every one, maybe run staging sites on it because it's got a multitude of plugins on it. And then you find something goes wrong, and then you've got to fault find it or roll it back. All that time is not billable to the client if you're working from a client point of view.
Yeah, it's definitely problematic when we're building sites that aren't ready, or there's one thing from being good enough to just not being ready at all, like halfway there. It's complete difference. And I think we're going to start to see a lot of headaches happening from people building sites inside Elementor right now, combining both V4 and V3. Like I've really sat back and thought about what is the best approach to this. What would I do? And the last thing I want to do is to build a site a certain way, and then 6 months from now to have to redo a lot of it just because it wasn't ready. And that's a big can of worms. Fun life for a web designer right now. But this is why now having more choices is good for us, the web creators. And we can't go wrong when we got extra, if something isn't working. I'm never for just switching. I never think just drop it. But start to adopt something. Start to look to add something on to your stack. Yeah.
I think
I'm starting to fade out a little bit. I think I need a little bit of coffee, man. I should next time I'm gonna get a good cup of coffee, some vitamins, and not just water.
No. Don't worry, we've got about 15 minutes, and then you can go to bed.
No. I'm gonna hit a certain level where anything starts to come out of my mouth and I'm going to get myself in trouble. But that's the funnest time right now. So you can really mess with me right now, Paul. Like if you know how to, you can get me in trouble. Take me down a certain road, and I'm just going to start to put my foot in my mouth.
It's all fun till someone loses an eye, as we said earlier. Look, I think once you get people that go like, that are staunch Elementor supporters. Right, and that's fine. If you've built your business around it, for a lot of people, it is a great solution. And I know I've sort of been down on certain aspects of it, but I've always said the same thing. It's like, if it works for you and you're happy with it and your business is working around it, stick with it. No one's telling you to change. No one's putting a gun to your head and saying you have to choose a different builder. Stick with what works for you. That's fine. But I think when you see people that have moved over from Elementor to something like Bricks. I use Bricks because it's the one that I'm most familiar with, and I know you use a lot as well. And you start to see how a class-based process of building works, and you start to get your blueprints in place and stuff like that, and you realize I don't have to rely upon additional plugins to do things. I can create loops out of basically anything. There's a lot more flexibility there. You see a lot of people when they kind of go back and they go like, I wish I'd done this ages ago, because this is just so much more powerful. Is there a learning curve? Yes. moving from anything is a learning curve. If you're a mechanic working on Volvos and you go to BMW, there's a learning curve. Both are engines, but they still work in different ways and they have their own different quirks and things. That's just part of everyday life. Moving from one thing to another has a learning curve. But I think once you start to realize how your workflow becomes much more fluid and you don't have to be looking at third-party tools to do things. You just stay inside the builder. And if you want to, I mean, you could easily use Bricks, especially now they've got the CSS framework functions in there. You could easily stay inside Bricks and not have to use any external tools to build your sites. And they could be very, very powerful sites. You know, that's cool. Elementor, I don't think you could. I think you'd still be hampered where you'll come across things that you just think, I wanted to do that, but I can't do it inside here. I would need to find something that does it and fills that gap. And like you say, because now they're sort of like in that transitionary period between V4 and V3 and still using V3 component pieces or elements, whatever they kind of call it this week, alongside the atomic elements, it does lead to all the benefits of using Atomic are gone because you're starting to put those widgets in there. So all the extraneous code and stuff that comes with those widgets is brought straight into it. So you kind of feel like, well, wouldn't it have made more sense to have just said, right, okay, we're building it out, but we're going to hold on until we've got a solid tool set, not just the bare minimum of those atomic elements, that when you want to do anything beyond that, you've got to start using legacy elements, which means at some point then when we do move away from those legacy elements into new atomic elements for that, you don't have to update, but you're probably going to want to go and update because then you get the benefits of the cleaner code and the less sort of bloat that goes with it. I don't know, I do wonder sometimes, it just kind of feels like there's not enough thought put into where they should be going. It's like there's like a knee-jerk reaction to people are telling us we need to have this. Now, 5 years down the line since V3, and we've been talking about V4 for that long, let's put something out. If you're that big a company and you've got that many people on board, that many websites, they're always touting like, 14, 15 million websites, a certain percentage of the internet or websites on the internet are powered by Elementor, or Kudos. I don't know, it just kind of feels like some silly decisions that have always been made throughout the history of Elementor, with pricing, with licenses, the allowed licenses and all those kinds of things. And like you say, with the advertising, with the ads and stuff in there, it just feels like for every good thing they do, they make a daft mistake that pisses people off.
That right there, that last sentence, that's the slogan.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the reason why I went in with Claude and I decided to leave ChatGPT is because the more I dug into it, I saw what ChatGPT was doing wrong. And that is they kept trying to do all these different things. They're trying to do Sora. They're all over the place. And then I saw Claude, the more I learned about it, I saw Claude was very focused. They just got really good at one thing, you know, coding and productivity. And they just keep improving on that. So that to me, that was like, okay, no matter what happens, I know that tomorrow Gemini is probably going to be better at this. You know, already this week we're seeing the rate limits are really bad in Claude, and Codex is supposed to be so much better. Yeah. But still, I'm staying in this lane because it's focused. I don't want to keep jumping around. And I think that's where Elementor started falling off, is jumping all around, going from hosting to all their different plugins and everything. And, you know, it's not bad if you could use it and stay focused. And I know there's a lot of people out there. This is their workflow. And I would not suggest anybody to change your workflow. If it's working for you and your clients, you're running a business. Yeah. And as a web designer, a web creator, working with lots of clients, managing lots of websites, stay in a lane, stay focused. You know when it's time to start to bring something else in. Like we all had that moment, like even in hosting, we start off with pretty crappy hosting usually, SiteGround, GoDaddy, whatever it is. But then we start to get a pain point like, hey, we notice our bills are quite high. Things are, you know, this is happening. Let me explore the next level. I think that is a gradual progression. And that's what I like to teach. And, you know, I think now with new tools, it is going to make it more appealing for that gradual progression. Because like what you said about bricks, I think bricks could have been a lot bigger if they did open up the affiliate sales, like affiliate marketing, if they did do different things where they allow different creators to come in. Because the thing is, when you have more creators creating content, we're seeing it from different perspectives, different angles, instead of just the developer angle. And I think that intimidates a lot of people when they just see from the developer angle, where bricks could actually come in from a designer angle as well and have a different approach. You could have multiple approaches. There's no perfect way of doing it, no absolute one way of doing it. And hopefully they realize it before it's too late. I don't think it's going to be too late. Now, see, this is where I'm putting my foot in my mouth. I told you, man. I told you it was coming, man.
I think you hit a sort of good point there, and I've kind of felt this myself for a long time. It's like when you get developers releasing videos about how to do something, whether that's any kind of educational content on their tool, there's two inherent problems with it. One, they come from a biased point of view because it's their tool. So they come with a lot of knowledge. And if you're not an educator, you don't necessarily know how to explain that underlying knowledge. And two, it's kind of like developers are not generally that good at teaching. They're just not. They're good at building things. They're good at creating those things. I think it's better. And again, this is where Elementor did some smart moves a few years ago where they were doing their marketing. They did bring in some creative people that were very good at teaching. They've kind of pulled all of that now. And if you notice, I saw the video, which was their FAQ about V4 and their V4 release video from the official Elementor thing. Go back a couple of years ago, those videos, the first day they'd been released, would have had thousands, if not tens of thousands of views. And they would have been, within a couple of weeks, they'd have been up in the sort of the high sort of double digits, maybe even triple digit kind of thousands. That today, I think, was on about less than 1,000 views, 350 views or something like that. It's like, that tells you something. I know a lot of people are going to be going to, AI to get answers. We know, we've discussed it back in one of the first live streams we did. AI is making a massive impact upon the amount of people that view the content that we create as educators. That's part of it. But they need to have a face that becomes the face of that content for that particular brand. I think once you do that, and that person is known for being, that's the bricks guy, that's the Elementor girl, whatever it is, when they release content that people get to understand and get to like that person, without having 10 different people on there on a rotation, that helps the brand grow. Because when people can see and learn, and there's lots of educational content out there, that's a good thing for the brand. We talked about this a little earlier in the live stream. Elementor did a good job of that a few years ago. Like I say, since then, since they kind of got rid of their entire marketing department, I think things have drastically gone downhill with regards to that. But maybe they got a big enough market share that doesn't matter anymore. I think Bricks, Builderius, Mosaic, any of those tools need to have those faces that become a brand ambassador, shall we say, that they are there, they're good at education, they're good at teaching the foundations, they're good at teaching the advanced topics, they make it understandable for people, and they are the same face. They need to invest into that side of things, because that, I think, is a big, massive selling point for any kind of tool. I'm not saying you or I should be that. They could take someone that's basically unknown, but as long as it gets to the point where they become the person, the face of the educational part of that builder tool, whatever it is. Again, another good company that does this is WP Managed Ninja. They've got a couple of people on their YouTube channels, and they do a lot of videos, and they are the faces. They are, in my opinion, probably a little light on detail. They're a little bit more sort of very quickly skirting over with expecting a certain level of prior knowledge, which is probably where, as an educator, I did 10 years of teaching, so I kind of see things maybe a little different to people that are not inside that sector or have never been inside that sector. So you have two kind of ways of doing it. You kind of give the glossy overview, which is what we tend to see with the AI bros and stuff like that. It's a very glossy, polished overview. Or you have people that kind of get down right in the weeds. Or you have the good educators, are the ones that sit in the middle. They can take the concepts and make them understandable and easy, but they can take the technical side of things and explain in such a way that people understand why they're doing it, not just how to do it. And that's the big key difference is you can show someone how to do it and they can copy it every day of the week. But then when they want to do something different with it, if they don't understand why, they just see the how, they're stuck. So they haven't learned anything, they just learned parrot fashion. And I think that's where a good educator kind of comes in. And I think any kind of builder needs people like that on board.
Yeah. And I'm seeing general interest, like around, even in your video, the Mosaic, you saw the comments in it. People are like, hey, we want to see more. How can we learn more about this? And yeah, I noticed that too about the Elementor videos. Like, man, a couple of years ago, if Elementor released a new version, a new one, those videos were getting views. Now it was like, wow, like, and it's actually good content too. Like, with the creators, there are some really good creators right now, like releasing some great content around it. But I'm noticing like the views are kind of low right now. Have you noticed that as well?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. The best performing content that I've seen from my point of view has been the AI stuff. For obvious reasons, because that's the big thing. But when you kind of consider, if you look at the number of people that are using Elementor, right, free or pro, doesn't matter. We don't know what the split is, but let's just say both, because both of those have access to the atomic elements. Where something as big as that is released, you would expect there to be a lot of interest in it, because not everybody's a developer that's comfortable with working with classes and all that kind of new way of working. So you'd think, historically, we've seen when we moved to the containers, my videos got tens of thousands of views on that, showing people how to use the containers because they were so used to working with the sections and stuff like that. We haven't seen that anywhere near the same with V4 of Elementor, which I kind of found a little bit strange because it is so very different for so many people that have never used a class-first process of building anything. It's all completely new to them, in the same way the containers were, and understanding that, and CSS grid and flex and stuff. So I kind of find it weird. So you do have to kind of wonder, why are so few people interested in learning about these new key important parts of Elementor?
Yeah, I see the core users, the ones that you see inside of the Facebook group, inside of our communities, the ones who are like active. It's the same interest being shown by them. I see it. I see it inside of the comments. I don't think, though, on the grander scope of things outside of that core group, it's really reaching. And it's something to think about. I don't know why. It's just something that I am observing.
It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a lot of text right there.
There's an awful lot of text, yeah.
I said it didn't take long to trip me up. Just throw a paragraph at me. Yeah, that'll stop me in my tracks.
Okay. Go on. No, go on.
I just got to say, the AI stuff, there's a lot of clickbait stuff out there. But seeing how AI could work in a real workflow, I think that's where a lot of people are interested in right now, because they want to see, like, how can we actually use this? How can we stay relevant and stay ahead, not of the trend, but of the technology that we have? It's kind of like, I feel like when we're using WP Bakery, you didn't want to keep watching WP Bakery websites when Elementor came out with something that was way better, and maybe that could be it. Of course, the AI hype stuff, you're going to bring in, I wouldn't want to create stuff on that, but some useful AI inside of the web design and WordPress and web, workflow. I think that's going to, maybe that's just what people are interested in right now. Maybe they aren't interested in V4 as much as I am. I am interested in it. I think it's great. I just would like to see things done a little differently.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think this kind of maybe leads us on to where we kind of covered. We both covered Nova Mira this week, right? We've covered it in very different ways. Excuse me. Which, for anybody who doesn't know, Nova Mira is basically a free MCP that allows you to connect up like Claude Code or Claude AI to WordPress, and it's kind of been trained on WordPress and sort of WooCommerce and stuff like that. And they have released the Elementor training side of things, so you can use it with Elementor. from my point of view, that was super interesting. And I think this is where we are sort of seeing interest in the content that I know you and I have been creating, which is the hybrid, showing how you actually use these kinds of tools alongside the tools that we already use, WordPress and WooCommerce and stuff like that. Again, going back to where we started this live stream, where we said it's about the processes. And I think something like Nova Mira, for example, is kind of showing how you can use tools like that to enhance your process, to speed up your workflow. I think this is the thing that maybe we kind of need to talk about, is that AI is, to a certain extent, going to replace a lot of what we do right now. The physical setup, installation, basic building and stuff like that. AI will take that side of things away over the next couple of years. It absolutely will do. Where we get involved along that process, where that's a case of we use something to get the design in place, and then we let like an MCP go and take that design and build it based upon Figma and all the rules or whatever it is, style guides and the CSS framework we're using and stuff like that. So it kind of paints the bigger picture. And I think this is where showing this bigger picture is probably more interesting for a lot of people, where they can actually put themselves in the same place and go, I would actually use that. That actually makes a lot of sense. Something like Nova Mira or like InstaWP, they've got an MCP server that you can spin up there as part of, if you use InstaWP for hosting or for whatever, which works in a very similar fashion, but it's integrated directly into your InstaWP dashboard. So it's very similar to what you can do with Nova Mira. I think this is definitely a more interesting thing, and I know that you've seen a lot of interest in it, because I think your video, when I looked the other day, was about like 18,000 views in a week for your live stream one, which I think it shows that you've got those edge cases on things that they are picking up a lot of traction when our audience, not attracting the new audience, but our audience sees ways in which they can utilize these technologies together with the tools and the systems that they currently have in place. I mean, what was your feedback on that video, and what's your experience of Nova Mira been?
So it is a good gateway to getting started. Like what you said, we're going to be using AI inside of the process to replace a lot of the things that we do. And we should. That's what it's there for. Not to do everything, but to replace a lot of the stuff. And I'm looking at things like right now, I just checked. There's Bricks Builder and MCPs that people are creating. We got Bricks Fusion. I'm sure there's going to, I've seen something with the Elementor MCP somebody created. We're going to start to see more and more of this. And this is a way for us to start to bring in things like Cloud Code or Codex to help us out build. Not to give it a prompt to say build a whole website, but we create the structure. We know what's going on. We use this tool to speed up the process. And it's getting us started for this next stage. And that's the reason why I really went down deep into Nova Mira, the MCP, the abilities. How does this whole thing work? Like even the abilities API, and really getting a deep understanding. And kind of going back to what I talked about in the very beginning, getting started with, this big world of AI and what we do of web design development. Start by mastering one thing at a time. Go get in and get focused. And that's been my direction. So I really want to understand it. And that's where I see the enthusiasm from others coming in, seeing how this works, because it is a good entry. Now, I see this starting to evolve and grow, and I'm excited. Like right now, like I wish I had more time. I want to go and like start spinning up Bricks websites. Like, let's see how we could get this to work. Let's put this to the test. But this is where I could see a lot of us starting to just get our feet wet inside of, this new way of building, I guess, if that makes any sense.
No, it does, because I think what we're seeing is more evolution than revolution. We're seeing how AI is going to evolve, and it's going to change how we approach what we do. And I think to kind of go back to things we talked about through this entire live stream, AI is going to take over parts of the process, but I don't think it's going to replace the entire process, because if, as we said earlier on, when someone comes to us to build a website, they're looking for a solution to a problem. And that entire lifespan of that problem to solution to completion is where we as designers, whether it's us, a team, an agency, whatever it is, that's our speciality. And where we embrace AI in that process to make our lives quicker and easier, it doesn't matter. And I think this is what we're going to see, is we're going to see certain points in that process are going to become AI. I'll give you a perfect example of this and kind of use this to kind of wrap things up. I was talking to my partner the other day. She's set up her own business about a year or so ago, and she's working with different clients. And she's a consultant, and it's to do with the tendering process, tendering for government funded projects and stuff like that. Excuse me. And she's going through and she's sort of quoting and talking about different bits and pieces. She said, where should I tell them that I use AI? I said, why do you want to tell them you're using AI? Well, because I should do. It's like, but why? You're using AI as a tool. If you're using it to research, would you say, I use Google to research? No, you wouldn't. So why would you say AI? Excuse me a second. I got a cough a second.
It's all good.
So it's kind of like some people look at AI as being something you should tell people about. I use AI to do this. But if you're using as part of your process, you don't tell them, I'm using WordPress to do this, I use Google to research that, and I use this to do that, and that to do that. It's not important. It just becomes part of the overall process. And I think that's what we're going to find when the Wild West starts to die down and the tools start to become more stable, more usable, and we see the real benefits to using these in different parts. Our workflow is going to change. But I think our job is going to stay the same. It's just how we approach it and how we do the different parts as we go through it are going to change. That's what I see. I mean, what do you think?
We're just going to be doing things a bit differently.
Yeah.
We're still, if we're going to stay building sites for clients, we'll still build them. We're still going to be web designers. We're just going to do it a bit differently, find different ways to be more efficient. I'll just say this, my video will be coming out either tonight or tomorrow night, but what I figured out inside of Figma, even though it's not quite there yet, but I was able to use Claude Code to go in and create my components, build component libraries, and start to speed up certain things that would have taken me a long time to do before. And it's those little tiny wins that we start to learn how to do, and we stack the little wins that are going to push us ahead. So this is something that I've been sharing inside of my community and teaching other web creators. We don't need to learn how to change everything right now. Even though it could feel overwhelming and the messaging out there is like everything is changing, we got to learn because, blah, blah, blah. We only need to learn how to stack those little wins. We start to stack those and they start to compound, and all of a sudden we start to see how we could do this better. This starts to become more natural. Like you said earlier about the wiring in the brain, that starts to change a little bit as we change our workflow. So yeah, if anything, I hope that anybody would come from this is that stack the little wins. Look how to find those to do things a little bit better using these new tools that we got. And you'll start to see results. I'm already seeing them. I'm sure you are as well. And many already inside of the chat, I'm sure that are using these tools are feeling it and seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I say, it's evolution. We started by hand coding things in things like Notepad. Then we had things like WordPress. Then we had things like page builders. Now we're seeing things like AI. We use things like CSS frameworks. We use things like components. We use all those different things. They feel natural because they're part of those environments we're used to. AI feels unnatural because it's external coming in and taking over those things. And that's why I think we see things differently to what they really are. It's just another tool in the arsenal to make us more effective, more efficient. And if we can work with a client and we can say, these things that would have taken us 10 days now take us 2 days because we benefit from AI, I can spend those other days helping you get a better end result and be more satisfied with what we've actually crafted as a solution for you. So you get a client walking away with better value from your skills, your knowledge, your understanding, because you've leveraged another set of tools to make your life quicker and easier.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I think that's the thing too, the misconception. It is, we could go in right now and create a prompt to build a web app that does this, and all of a sudden it'll spin it out, and it looks like magic. It's like, dude, I just built an app. And I'm sure you were there. I think everybody had that moment like, dude, I can build an app now. And then you actually try to build something that you plan to build, everything changes in. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, like, dude, this is not easy. There is so much to learn. Yep. And Yeah, and I think once we get that part in, I'm like, okay, we got to learn a new tool, and it's just like learning anything.
Yeah.
Geez, I remember I used to design layouts in Photoshop.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Sketch app came out, and that was a huge learning curve. Took me about 4 or 5 months to really learn it, but then once I did, I benefited from it. And then a new tool came out, Figma, and it wasn't that big of a learning curve, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what
Evolution, not revolution. Isn't it?
evolution. That's it. That's it. So that whole this changes everything. We're all changing. It's never.
Makes sense.
It's always been this way.
It has.
It's all. Yeah. It's nothing new. We're in nothing new.
That's right. Okay, let's wrap things
Same
up.
but different.
Same but different.
Same
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. Same shit, different coat of paint. Right. I'm going to say let's wrap it up because I think that's coming around a nice little full circle, and I think that's a nice end point for us. So, Jeffrey, if for any reason anybody doesn't know how to find out more about you, how can they find you on the big internet?
Yeah, go to Claude Cowork, start up a new project, select that file, and then ask it. And it'll tell you. What's up, Robert?
Yeah, but for the sensible answer, just search for Lightbox,
Yeah.
Lytbox. There you go, you'll find Jeffrey. So thank you once again, man, for joining in. And hopefully we'll be back in a couple of weeks doing the same thing again, talking about another bunch of topics. Hopefully everybody's enjoyed this, but I just want to say thank you, Jeffrey, for taking the time out of your day for doing these live streams. It means a lot, and I love doing these kind of things. I think it's fun sitting here, shooting shit together, talking about different bits and pieces that we've kind of experienced the last couple of weeks, and maybe bringing a level of sanity to some topics that are a little bit overhyped. But thank you once again, man.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. And for everybody else, we'll be back in 2 weeks, hopefully. And if you've got any more questions, topics, and things you want us to cover, by all means, drop those in either Lightbox Academy, or the community, or WP Tuts community, and we will take a look at adding those into the next one. But for now, thank you very much for joining us. I will say goodbye. Thank you very much again, Jeffrey, and I will see you all soon.
Thank you.